Let's go.
All right, so this is a brand new episode of Red Power Hour in the brand new year of 2021.
It is not the new year. It's December 38th.
Yeah, it's December
right?
38th.
This is Red Power Hour we're doing?
Oh,
I didn't know
shit.
that.
Rewind the tape.
Oh, looks like this will need some editing.
Yeah.
No, we're keeping all of this. We are keeping all of this.
All right. This is the Red Nation podcast with your host, Nick Estes. And we have some amazing news to announce for the year 2021. Red Nation podcast has been, variously co-hosted or guest hosted by Red Nation comrades. But this year we're actually inviting our comrade Jen Marley on to the show as a permanent co-host.
Woohoo!
So she's joining us today in this roundtable discussion on the Q Shaman, and it's all dedicated to the Q Shaman.
Q Savage.
Yeah, Q Savage.
Q Savage.
Cue the Savage, the Dior Savage commercial.
Lawrence of QAnonia.
Yeah, QAnonia.
Lawrence of QAnonia. Oh, shit.
Dances with Q's. All right. Jen Marley, who are you? Where do you come from?
Why are you here?
And why are you here?
Show us your papers.
Yeah, show us your papers. Storming the podcast like.
Wait, did you introduce me?
Oh yeah, Sina's on here too.
God, rude.
Why is this guy here?
Who the fuck is me? Okay, I'll tell you.
Yeah, wait your turn. Wait your turn.
Lord. Okay. First of all, I
Jen,
just missed this kind of foolery.
The floor is yours, dog.
This is good.
2021 is off to a bad start.
Okay, yeah. I'm Jen Marley. I'm from the Pueblo of San Ildefonso. I'm Tewa. My grandma's from Zia Pueblo, so I also got my roots there too. I am a student. I'm in the PhD program at the University of New Mexico in the American Studies Department. Nick just so happens to be my advisor. And
nepotism.
Yeah. I don't think that counts as not related. It's weird.
It's not nepotism if you're not related by blood. Just kidding. No.
Yeah. I think it's called favoritism. Probably gonna get fired for that.
Oh no.
What do you study, Jen? Want to tell us a little bit about your dissertation, your work?
Well, I'm far from my dissertation, but my research interests include like queer indigenous studies, indigenous feminisms, third world feminisms, internationalism, environmental studies. And I'm especially interested in looking at gender. I consider myself as belonging to the traditions of indigenous feminism. I'm a co-founder of the Pueblo Feminist Caucus of the Red Nation, and so I feel that this my project like definitely transcends the academy, and I'm interested in rethinking kinship and identity within Pueblo communities and beyond. And I'm also just, interested in looking at our relationships to the state and how identity has formed historically in the place that I'm from, but also looking at how we can learn to be internationalists as, we have been historically, and what possibilities exist for our liberation alongside, engaging in broader anti-imperialist struggles. So it's not very precise yet. I'm still working on narrowing down exactly what I want to look at. Um, but yeah, I hope I can contribute like useful theoretical frameworks to the realm of indigenous feminism, but also like I'm really just interested in like throwing down like in revolution, like dismantling nuclear colonialism and laying some kind of foundation for people to do that very real hardcore work someday. So yup.
Sweet.
People probably know me or have seen me. People are probably most familiar with my my engagement in the
Your arrest.
my arrest.
when,
I know people just
when you
love
stormed
sharing.
the New Mexico state capitol.
Right? Palace of the Governors.
Yeah.
Yeah, people just love sharing like my arrest pics, and I'm like, if you're gonna share my arrest pics, you gotta share my nudes too. You gotta balance it out.
So that's a good segue into today's conversation. I was actually thinking about this because I was like, I didn't want to bring it up, but you brought it up, Jen.
There's no way around it, man. I
Yeah.
try.
I mean, like, what, like, so for example, like, we're going to be talking about the Q Shaman specifically, Mr. Jake Angeli. I think that's how you say his name.
Who cares?
Who cares? But
okay, and as well as in the banking cartels. So all over the globe, countries are occupied by central banking institutions that loan the government money at interest, and this enables them to own all the other socioeconomic and geopolitical gears in the country, okay? And then what they do is they use their billions or trillions of dollars to create a bunch of deep underground bases where they have all this like highly top secret technology going on. Okay, and they are like figuring out how to do things like create infinite energy or do things like anti-gravity technology or inertia propulsion. They're learning how to do things like cloning and all sorts of crazy stuff, okay? This is like a global takeover. They're trying to create a new world order, right? They're trying to create a one world government. That means there's like over 180 countries involved in all this stuff, where they're monopolizing all the resources, all the labor in the country through the central banking system, okay? And that enslaves the whole country through debt to whoever owns a central bank, all right? Now,
this is in response to the storming of the Capitol by the Q people. They called it, I think it was called like the Great Awakening or part of the Great Awakening, to rescue Donald Trump from, not getting his second inauguration or his second term as president of the United States. But what was fascinating about that, and I think a lot of indigenous people on Twitter and elsewhere noticed, that the police very gingerly either aided and abetted the QAnon MAGA people or, didn't do what they do to us as indigenous people.
Mhm.
And one of the things that, here locally in, New Mexico, there's a very militant and homicidal militia movement, very much aligned with the fascist right that took power, or that attempted to sort of symbolically take power in the state.
They smeared shit on the walls.
Yeah.
It's a type of power.
Yeah.
I guess they pissed on the Senate floor too.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Talk about savage.
Good old shit and piss.
Fucking savages.
But the what's great, I mean, what's interesting here is that you had videos of these militia guys in Santa Fe, which is the state capital of New Mexico. It's also where the churches used to hang and fly on their flagpoles, Pueblo and Apache scalps. It's also where a lot of Pueblo and Apache people were sold into slavery. It's also, just where the gallows were when they used to execute indigenous people. And so this is the state capital of New Mexico. It's also where on January 6th, the, Cowboys for Trump and the militia movements went to the governor's mansion and actually openly threatened with guns and said they were going to kill Michelle Lujan Grissom. And nobody was arrested at all. And you were arrested for simply protesting a genocide parade.
That is correct.
In Santa Fe. So maybe you can talk. Maybe we'll start local and then we'll go global. So maybe we
There's
can
no in between.
maybe you could walk us through Santa Fe and the genocide parade that occurred there, and like everything that's, like the significance of armed white guys going to the Capitol and demanding, a recount.
Sure. Yeah, Santa Fe. God, gotta kill it with fire. Irredeemable in my opinion.
For sure.
It's just like from its very inception has always been about like the reinforcement of like just violent settler colonialism and the perpetuation of racial capitalism. Today it's like New Mexico's art mecca, and the celebrities have homes there. It's known for its famous art scene, and it's a place, it's particularly the Santa Fe Plaza, like where the Roundhouse is, where the Palace of the Governors is, and all of the galleries are. It's just a site of like very just gruesome violence, as Nick mentioned. The site of hangings, the site of battles, and I also want to mention though, like um, Santa Fe. When I'm talking about Santa Fe, I'm talking about the settlement. What that place is called in the Tewa language historically is Ogapo Geowinge, meaning the White Shell Water Place, in reference to a hot spring shrine that existed where this gigantic cathedral now sits. Very standard of Spanish colonizers to build churches atop sacred sites. So yeah, so Santa Fe is a white supremacist settlement to its core, and I'm honestly not surprised at what we saw at the Capitol the other day. I think particularly in the past few years, we've seen Santa Fe show its ugly face for what it is. It's often like celebrated as being so liberal and like gay friendly and like ecologically friendly, and a lot of new agers and go there and live there. So it has like big granola vibes, but of course, we all know what usually lies under that mask. So I think that storming and the lack of police response to it is something that doesn't surprise me. It's like very on brand for Santa Fe. Yeah, I mean, just a few months ago, Native women were brutalized when after the toppling, during and after the toppling of the racist obelisk monument, which is actually a monument like celebrating Union soldiers occupying the area, and it's known for its inscription saying that the monument is to honor those killed by, the Indian savages. And there's a whole history to that, but it's a monument that's been contested quite a bit throughout history, just like the Entrada, right? The genocide parade that I was arrested for protesting. That's been being protested since at least 1980, possibly even before that. But yeah, basically what it is similar to Civil War reenactments. It reenacts the reconquest of Santa Fe by Don Diego de Vargas, a brutal conquistador. It's said to have been a bloodless reconquest, which is a lie. At least 80 Pueblo revolutionaries were hung at the gallows. That was precisely in the spot where I was arrested and paraded. And to this day, these cops continue to wear the seal of De Vargas on their uniforms. Like, there's just these, this very blatant connection to this ongoing legacy of just violent genociding of Native people there. And so it was abolished only after the optics of my arrest, because that like struck a chord with a lot of people, and especially like these white liberals who want to believe that Santa Fe is like their pure progressive wonderland, which since then there's been multiple indigenous people brutalized and like publicly, and yeah, so Santa Fe, kill it with fire. It's not redeemable. Like, just and people don't think of a place like Santa Fe as being like a violent border town, but it really is. Like I said, indigenous people aren't even allowed to exist in a place like the plaza unless they're there selling their wares with permits, and there to like upkeep this illusion that like we're these peaceful artisans, like there for your pleasure. So, I mean, I could go on and on about this. I don't want to take up too much time, but yeah, Santa Fe is white supremacist to its core, and it's really scary because I actually think the right has a foothold there right now. I think that in a place like Santa Fe, it's just like a perfect place for these far right movements to flourish, and I don't know. We'll see what the future holds. I think that's a good segue. Oh, and then I guess a segue to talking about the fucking QAnon shaman dude is like, Santa Fe historically has been like the space where, like I said, the New Age movement has thrived, and like these ultra conservative and usually very rich white people will go to not only consume indigenous art and culture, but to take it up themselves in various ways. It's a home to notoriously violent, like grave robbers and art collectors who, are kind of seeking that to distance themselves from whiteness, but also maintain all of the power that comes with it. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Q Shaman himself has connects to a lot of these busters in Santa Fe.
Q Shaman. Shaman. I
Ugh.
don't. How do you even say that? Is it
Oh.
shaman?
Again, who cares?
Yeah. Well, all right.
Let's pronounce it several different ways.
So let's talk about the new interim president of the the new interim president of the Confederate States of America. His name is Jake Angeli. I don't know. I think the Lima Group recognized him, and NATO recognized him as the interim president.
It's part of like the separatist movement.
Yeah. But yeah, let's get into this because, like, okay, let's start with this guy because this guy is like now like meme gold for Indian country or Indian Twitter. So his name is Jake Angeli. There was a lot of questions about whether or not he was actually impersonating an indigenous person.
Of course he was.
Mhm.
People thought he was impersonating Vikings,
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
like that kind of like pure white blood pedigree. And I'm like, nah, dog. He was dressed up like an Indian.
Yeah, he looks like one of the Indians from like a George Catlin, painting. But also he's got like let's just do a breakdown for those who may not have seen him and may not know who we're talking about. But it looks like he killed like he found a dog that was hit by a car and skinned it and then put it on his head
Put some horns on it.
and put some horns on it, put a bird on it. And then he's got like a beard, definitely a white guy. He's got like
a Star Wars tattoo.
Is that
Is that a Star Wars
is
tattoo?
that a Star Wars
I
tattoo?
thought it
No,
was.
that's not a Star Wars tattoo.
White
Okay,
like
so
a Rebel
supremacist
Alliance?
tattoo.
no, yeah. So let me get into it because this is the thing.
He has like several tats.
yeah, he's like a neo-paganist, but it's like related to this whole like white supremacist thing. So I'm going from the top down. So,
Okay. We started at his head.
yeah, we started at his head.
Dead
dead dog,
dog.
horns. He's literally a white devil. And then he's got an earring. He's got like you see a lot of, this is like a thing with a lot of white women. He's got like a beaded long, like feathery earring hanging off his right ear. He's got some kind of, I don't know, something you buy at Hot Topic, I think. It's like a medallion. It must be like a spell medallion or something. And then he's got a very hairy chest. So he's half bare. He probably smells like one too. No offense to our bear relatives.
I'd like to stand a point of odor on that one, because that is not a hairy chest. You have never met an Iranian man, clearly. This is a white guy with some peach fuzz on his chest, but
compared to native, he was like a fucking full blown.
Wait, so
woolly
natives
mammoth.
don't have body hair? I didn't know this.
No,
It's
no,
not
it's like
really-
it's like
yeah.
a whole thing.
Really?
No, like native men
Oh.
can't even grow beards correctly.
God,
I
It's like
can't
this
grow
is
a
like
beard.
bless you people. God bless you people.
yeah, not
Even with my amount of white blood, I can't like.
yeah, no.
grow hair.
Excessive
You guys have
hair is
some
not a
great hair
problem.
on your head.
Oh, how did that happen?
I'm white
Hair
enough
don't-
to grow a beard.
Yeah, but you'll never find like a native man with back hair or like excessive nipple hair.
Oh,
Yeah,
it hurts so much. Oh,
it's a thing. I mean, like
Or like their forearms look like fucking,
stop
I don't know,
it. I feel
there
seen.
was
like kittens.
yeah. I mean, there is
Stop
definitely
othering
hair.
me.
There's hair, but it's not like extensive. It's like
It's like patchy and sporadic in a very
Yeah.
strange way, but it doesn't cover like large amounts of like body
yeah. There's not a lot of
length.
surface area to it.
surface.
Biggest
That's the
one
word.
is the
young.
catfish mustache.
What?
The
catfish
catfish
mustache,
mustache.
the
I actually
signature.
really like Navajo men really like the catfish mustache, and I actually really don't like it.
Yeah.
I find
Yeah,
it
they
very
love
creepy.
it. They're so
It's-
proud of their little sparse mustaches. And
So I tried to grow like actual facial hair, and I actually got disgusted with myself, and I just shaved because it's so embarrassing.
Yeah, you don't want to look at it. It's yeah.
So embarrassing.
Wait, back to Mr. Jake because this guy is 30. This guy is 33 years old.
Oh yeah, he's an
So,
adult.
He's like he's a baby. Like he's like a
Yeah.
he's like a little older graduate student. Like he's not. This guy is like their shaman.
Well, yeah, okay. Let's get into this.
He's his own
well,
shaman.
First of all, he's got like a. Let's
Let's
finish.
keep talking about what he was wearing.
I know, no, yeah, we're
Because
only at his.
we're only at his nipples. All
Oh,
right,
We're only at his
we
nipples.
stopped at his
I
nipples
was
and the
trying
hair.
to move us past this.
Oh, no. So it's funny because he's got tattoos, and we'll get into those tattoos in a bit. But he's got like a tattoo that's literally like constructed around his nipple.
Ouch!
It's not a Star Wars sign. It looks like a rebel sign, but it's not. It's like some kind of weird Nordic thing, and I'll talk about it in a bit. And then further down, he's got like a Thor hammer, or a hammer of Odin, and then he's wearing like, I think he probably just went to like Walmart and bought like a Native American Halloween costume and
No,
just
it looks like he made those fucking pants.
okay
They
because
don't
they got
even have.
fringe on them.
They don't even have like a waist, do they? Is there like?
I think there's like they're elastic,
Oh shit!
so there's some
Let me pull up this picture.
yeah, there's some craft behind it.
Okay.
Definitely not indigenous, because I think the indigenous seamstresses and seamsters that I know would die if they saw that kind of craft.
Yeah, that would never
work.
fucking happen. Oh, here's a good
But
picture.
somebody had a really good description of it. They called it a Chewbacca bikini.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was Star Wars related.
Well, it's okay. So, like, let's get into this. He's not like obvious. People were saying he's an anti-fascist. He's not. He's from Arizona, the good state of Arizona.
He had a spear too.
Well, I'd rather be dead in California than alive in Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's pretty much the breeding ground these days.
I mean, it was like the birthplace of neoliberalism. Actually,
He's a direct product of Barry Goldwater,
hmm
who actually also
Glad
used to
you're
dress
dead.
up like an Indian back in the day. As a matter of fact, Playing Indian by Philip Deloria talks about it.
We will talk more about that on another episode of Yoded.
Yeah, we're gonna get into secret societies and native appropriation.
well,
Stay
I want to
tuned.
be a part of that. I have a freaking story. I have a firsthand account about that shit.
Oh yeah,
Santa Fe has a lot of those.
yep. I actually
Secret
stayed in
society.
one. We used to live in one actually.
The School for Advanced Research
It's a
in
whole
Santa
story.
Fe. Those white sisters.
Whole
Their
story.
last name was White, and they were white.
Yeah, and they used to do
and they
mock.
founded it.
They used to do mock Pueblo rituals.
Yep,
and
and like
boy.
Aztec rituals.
yeah, they used to dress up like Indians.
They used
And
to dance around
And
in
this is what the
circles.
messed up thing about it was, is that it's like this prestigious institution, and a lot of these people like are indigenous academics, but they just left those pictures out. They're just like, oh, it's cool, it's part of our history. Like, look at all these white people who used to play Indian and dance like Indians when dancing was actually illegal for us. Like, it was pretty.
Well, it's the history of American anthropology.
And they also had a pet cemetery there, which is really disturbing.
My grandma and grandpa went to one of those things out of curiosity, and they love to talk about it at cocktail parties, or they used to, and they just got the biggest fucking kick out of seeing that foolery like firsthand.
That's the way I feel like about 99.9% of indigenous appropriation. It's freaking hilarious. Am I offended? Yeah, but I think it's better to laugh at it. And this is a perfect guy. So he's got tattoos. He's got Thor's hammer, or Mjolnir, whatever. I don't know. I'm going to purposely butcher these European things. And an image of Yggdrasil, a tree of life, etched around his nipple. And
that
then
is a tree of life.
Mhm.
And then placed right above his art is the Valk nut.
Mhm.
Real name, the knot of the There's actually a nut story in here too, so
Yep.
stay tuned. We're putting Easter eggs.
Death by nuts.
Yes. Okay. We'll get into that. There was a casualty that involved
Balls.
getting electrocuted in the nuts at the Capitol building. It's a true story. So the Valknut is an Old Norse runic symbol, and it's very much popularized by white supremacists. And so for those of you that don't know, like they're back in the 90s, but also kind of like in the 80s as well. In the 90s specifically, white supremacists in Europe, especially like in the Nordic countries like Sweden and Norway, began to reappropriate what would be considered pagan culture, and it was really much integrated into like the black metal scene. And so you get like these black metal actually comes out of a form of Nazism and fascism. And they were like burning down churches because they saw like the Christians as like, foreign invaders, etc. And that kind of culture has really permeated white supremacist culture in the United States and North America. And so that's where these symbols actually come from. He is appropriating a kind of form of like what would be considered like European primitivism, right? And the argument with them is that Europe is like, there is a European nationality or European nationalities, and that Europeanness actually goes back to what we now know as paganism. And they think of the North America as an extension of Europe in this sense, right? While also appropriating indigenous kind of iconography and imagery as well.
So it's like a double play on the nativism that's really inherent to settler identity.
Yeah. And there's something like to be said about the way that the left and like right-wing media pundits talk about like quote unquote tribalism, because this country was actually built to eradicate our tribalism, like fundamentally, to be kind of like have this like modern figure of like this kind of amalgamation of primitivity, right? Whether it's through the formation of like male masculine violence through fascist organizations like the Proud Boys or fucking Q Shaman. He's the apotheosis of Western culture.
Oh yeah.
Gotta love it.
They don't send their best, they send this guy.
Yes.
He is their best.
So that's Q Shaman. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on this, because I think it's amazing that this guy's the leader. Like he's been like, even if he's not really the leader, he's the figurehead of the MAGA takeover.
It's just literally so on brand. Like it couldn't be more on brand. Like I was pretty yoded because I had just finished reading Playing Indian to write a final paper, and I'm like, damn, these guys are really with it. What it tells me is that they know their history, right? They know what it means to play Indian, as a part of like engaging in these like white supremacist like patriotic movements. So why are we confused about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I I can't believe I just thought about this, but I remember there's this like a prominent voice. Her name is Lila June Johnson.
Oof.
The white liberals really like her politics. She's a Navajo person, kind of in the radical politics kind of arena. But I remember this piece she wrote a few years ago about how white settlers need to find their own indigeneity, and that's like a really important political project for them. And so they actually need to like go back to Europe and like do what this guy, what's his name again?
It doesn't matter. It's Q
Shaman.
It's Q Savage.
Q Savage to do what this guy has actually done. And I was thinking, I was like, dude, like if this is your recommendation for like what white settlers should do, like they accomplished it. This is the dream, right? This is the dream right here of finding one's like white indigeneity. Because as Nick said, it's like it's an indigeneity that extends back. It's like a fictional indigeneity, right? That draws from like European primitivism and then also like American or like a quote unquote New World kind of primitivism. And there's a lot that people have written about, the way that playing Indian, of course, Phil Deloria's book is foundational for this. that playing Indian is like a foundational aspect of the American experience. It's like settlers, particularly white settler men, form kinship with each other through playing Indian. And this is like well documented. It still happens in places like Santa Fe.
Boy Scout culture.
Boy Scout culture. So what we saw on Wednesday in this Q Savage dude, like being like the literally like the icon, right? The icon of this particular watershed historic moment in this fascist movement. Like the fact that this dude is in red face is like, this is America. Like if you want to understand settler colonialism, you literally just have to look at this guy. It's not an aberration that he's wearing this outfit and that he is playing Indian. This is literally like the culmination of white supremacy, which is partly, like, largely based on anti-Indianism. So, yeah, not shocking at all.
So they somebody actually did his ancestry, and he apparently did a DNA test, and it came back. It came back that he's related to Elizabeth Warren.
I was waiting. I was like, what's he going to say? This isn't real. This is totally a setup. I've listened to enough hours of this guy's voice to know how he jokes. It's also like, remember, like, think of the perversity of all this. Remember, like, okay, so white settlers inherited and this incredible kind of almost sort of historical genetic like genome of the U.S. in the terms of like the nation state of the U.S., which is white supremacy, imperialism, eradicating the indigenous people, right? Like these are foundational things of U.S. culture, right? But then the problem is like the nationalism requires a kind of rootedness. But when you know that you only showed up here like 300 years ago, and then you look around to like, you know, the other fascists in the room, they're like, oh, Germans have 2,000 years of history. They can talk about that. But like, so then they have to do this thing of, well, we are something called European. And like the whole idea of Europe then itself becomes this new fiction, right? So they went from, it's like they're riding two sort of invisible, imaginative horses at once. One is called like the American National Project, and the other one is something like even phonier called Europe, right? Like it's like you know what I mean? Like if you look at the map, there's only like there's like three, like there's only like that many continents. Like we think of Europe, Asia, Africa, like as separate continents, but like these are like this is a huge landmass, and our borders that we draw around them, those are mental borders always, right? Like those are like, sure, there are real peoples of say Ukraine and Germany and whatever, like there are cultures and languages and foods and whatever, but like the idea of Europeanness is incredibly new, incredibly shaky. And who believes in Europe? Fucking crazies like Lauren Southern who go out into the middle of Mediterranean to harass like, you know, undocumented people out of like fleeing their land. Like these are the degenerates of Europe. The rest of them, like nobody believes in Europe as a project. The UK just left Europe. Like they didn't want to be part of the club they helped found. Like what does that, like where do we stand? But that kind of critical faculty, I mean, it escapes these people. What these people have is this kind of revanchiste, dream of returning to this, you know, like totally fictional image of America as this perfect sort of whole place. And this, you know, demonic, illiterate bag of McDonald's grease embodies that for them, right? And the fact that he lost means they all lost. So of course he couldn't have lost. Therefore, you have to go and fight this sort of fictional thing. And then it turns into this, like, and then the cops let you into the Capitol building. I mean, like, this is the perfect end to the Trump thing.
Yeah.
Whatever it was. I was in America when he was elected. I watched the election with almost like kind of glee, because when it happened, I felt this smug sense of good. Let them see what they are. Let them learn what like I know what the United States is, what a lot of the rest of the earth knows what the United States is. So like in a weird way, the strange devotion of this like just toilet brain soul with like nothing to offer. Like this is actually like what you said, Melanie, is right. Like this is America.
This is America.
Like ironically, they actually are the red, white, and blue. Like,
Hmm.
like
His
you know what I
face
mean?
is painted.
yeah,
he has
his-
red, white, and
but
blue
in
war
a
paint
bad
on
way.
his face.
Like in a bad way, like they showed themselves for what they are. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is all that you have. Like some clown prince screaming on Twitter, and then, you know, I mean, what we didn't talk about is the fact that right afterwards he threw them all under a bus. He hasn't been heard from since. Anyways, that's my rant. I'm gonna stop. That was way too
Hmm.
So this man was arrested just hours ago. What I'm reading.
Yeah, today we're recording on Saturday.
Did he have a shirt on?
Yeah, did he have this? That's the good question. That's the
They pulled
number
him out
one
of
question.
sweat.
Question.
Yeah.
In Sedona?
Yeah, he was in Sedona.
He was in one of those sweats where a bunch of like white folks die. He was in a construction.
No, but I think that I think like what you're onto something, Sina, and this is something that I wanted to get into as well, is because there's been a lot of chit chat about this. But he in this like return to primitivity or primitivism, like whether it's like an imagined Europe or an imagined, America, is like the quintessential move to settler innocence, right? To
Right.
create like all like even like immediately after this whole incident happened, you had Mark Wayne Mullen, who's actually a Cherokee congressperson. I just tweeted out what he said, and I got a lot of backlash from Cherokee people, and rightfully so, because they're like, we don't own him. He's like, he's a piece of shit. He's a racist asshole, and he is. But he is one of 6, and there are 3 conservatives. Like, this is the thing. Oh yeah, representation of indigenous people. 3 of them are right wingers who were on board with the Stop This Steal campaign. Like, let's be honest, that is what representation does not mean red power. Representation does not mean indigenous power. But anyways, he was, there's a picture of him, and he said that, he did this interview with NBC, and he said that, I remembered my training. I think he was, he served in the military. And he was like, I was making sure everybody was out of the floor. And then they flashed a picture of him, and he was like literally cowering behind a chair the entire time. But anyways, he said, the interviewer asked them, point blank, and this is on live television. She's like, Trump just got on television and said, and with a pre-recorded message, and said to all these people, I love you, but please stop and go home. I don't think Trump actually threw them under the bus. But Mark
Later
Wayne Mullen,
he did, though. In his tweet, he did. Oh, in his
Yeah.
his begging to keep his account, which didn't even work.
His last tweet.
his last tweet,
The series finale of Trump Twitter.
Mark Wayne Mullen, an indigenous person, ostensibly, said, I love these guys too. Didn't qualify it by anything. This is the Blue Lives Matter people that ended up killing a cop with a fire extinguisher. Yeah, this guy got hit in the head with a fire extinguisher and died. There was Ashley Babbitt.
Biggins. Baggins.
of which shire we don't know.
Like in Demon Shire of hell.
Hold on, I have the whole list of the people who died. But
I don't have like the good use of adjectives the way that the English lit guy does.
The comp lit guy on this call. Yeah, I know, he's like the toilet bowl of American ideology or whatever.
It was so much better.
So there's Ashley Babbitt, who was a small business owner, by the way. She sold pool supplies, cleaning supplies out, and she was also a veteran, but also a wild Q follower. There was Benjamin Phillips, upper middle class computer programmer, and I don't really know he had a stroke and died, I guess. Then there's Kevin Greesham, who this is the best one. Apparently, allegedly, according to sources familiar with his death.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. He was a 55-year-old man from Athens, Alabama, and he died of an apparent heart attack. And they say at an unknown point during the events, but according to eyewitnesses who posted on Twitter, apparently he had stolen something, a picture from the wall, and somehow in the course of like bumbling around, he's a large man, of course, bumbling around. I'm sure he had a hard time grabbing this picture. It slipped and triggered the taser that he had on his Batman utility belt or in his pocket. Not quite sure which one that is. You know, he seems like a very tactically minded person, judging by the pictures of him holding machine guns and with American flags.
It's just like double fisting machine guns.
Yeah, he's double fisting machine guns in front of a Christmas tree in one of the photos. Suffered from high blood pressure, by the way, so he's probably really worked up at this moment in time. And
then he tased himself.
He tased himself in the balls, in the crotch,
balls.
And perhaps caused himself to have a heart attack and died. He literally electrocuted his goblin coin purse, to use the language of a complet scholar, and died death by goblin coin purse.
I mean, he must have been tasing himself for a pretty extended period of time to go into cardiac arrest.
Yeah, pretty rowdy.
But this is the best.
These people are like not well to begin with generally, right? Like this is not the healthiest of countries, like the US. So like, I mean, like think about it, like all these unhealthy people flying across the country, including the Babbitt. I mean, Babbitt looked quasi healthy, so she wasn't one of them, but I mean, she was in the military, and that tells you. But like that like flying across the country, endangering yourself with this like terrible disease, endangering everyone around you. God knows how many people are going to get COVID and die from that event.
Right.
And then to go there and that's how your life ends. Like that's
America.
Like that's exactly like
this is America.
But like story. Exactly. But like it wasn't even like that they met resistance. Like they were allowed into that place. Like they didn't have to face any resistance. So like in a way I feel sorry for the Babbitt woman, like because like it was all choreographed until they got like how far. What difference does it make if she went through another door? You know what I mean? Like and she died. Like she got a bullet through the neck and she died. Like that's like that like imagine you're her parents or something. Like what did your child die for? You're like, oh, for like
QAnon
Twitter guy? Like
yeah.
Like that's like that is like a deep tragedy. You know what I mean? Like as sick and depraved as these people are, and like as much as we're laughing, but like some people give up their lives on purpose to like achieve something. You know, like it's not like, I mean, remember the thing that the one honest thing that Bill Maher said on his whole life was defending the idea that you shouldn't call the Al Qaeda like 9/11 guys cowards because they gave up themselves, like they gave up their lives for what they believed in. Like we're the cowards. We're the ones who bomb from above. He said this. And then of course it was a huge pushback, and it's been conveniently forgotten, and he's back to being the Islamophobe we all know him to be. But like the idea that like the people who like die for their cause, like this is in some cultures, in some places, like, you know, this is something highly valued, but there has to be a reason. Like there has to be a good reason. Something good has to come of it. You know?
Yeah.
It wasn't just like a temper tantrum caused by Twitter that then like caused on Twitter about some stupid guy's Twitter account. Like this is this is the tragedy. Like this is what you gave up your life for. Like you could have cleaned pools. You could have, you know, like you could have like made your life have meaning of some kind. But that's the thing, when you don't have any politics in your life, when all you have is culture war, and then the hero of that culture war faces some kind of turmoil, or you go to him, like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, like this is what you died for? Like for a guy who laughs at you, like he hates his followers. He hates them. I mean, the funny thing about him saying, I love you, like he does not say that to his kids. That motherfucker does not say that to his kids, and they all vie for his love. Maybe he says it to Ivanka, but for all the wrong reasons. But he literally does not say I love you. And like there he is telling these other people who probably didn't get told probably didn't get told as well enough times that somebody loved them, or like, you know what I mean? Like that is like this weird, strange thing at the heart of all of this. Like people doing these drastic things for absolutely no reason, and on top of that, for a guy who hates them, that's the turning point here. I don't think the actual events, like the actual sort of like this symbolism of all these idiots walking into the Capitol building, because that will just like never happen again, right? This will be their excuse that to have 50,000 troops stationed at every single Capitol event, probably daily. It's probably going to do what like the French government did with like the Eiffel Tower and just have like a permanent military presence there. It's surprising that that's not the case, right? So like the actual historicity of this is to me not that interesting, but the fact that like this person died, like 5 people died. Like I shouldn't laugh, but like just saying it out loud is like 5 people died for this, for like what is essentially like this, like what is essentially is like a frat party gone horrible.
I don't know, but
yeah, no, but they died for fascism, though. They died for like
Yeah.
state power. Like they really had a reason. Like, and
they
I
would
don't.
have killed us if we were there. They
Yeah,
would have like.
they
We
wanted
weren't
to
there. There was
wanted
no
to murder.
battle. There was no battle though. Like there was
They
nothing.
wanted to
There was
kill
nothing to
people in
win.
Congress.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
something that I've been thinking about is like they, with the exception of Ashley Babbitt and the cop that got bashed with the fire extinguisher, they literally killed themselves.
That's true.
They killed themselves. Like that one woman got trampled, like the fucking taser. Like people are falling off of shit and dying of like so-called natural causes, but like they killed themselves. Like I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I think I get what you're saying, Sina, but like I guess my perception of it is like these are like, and I use brainwashed in a way that like in a way that I understand the implications of this. I'm not using it in a conspiracy minded way, but these people were to the point. Somebody like Ashley Babbitt, who knew, I don't know if she ever saw combat in her. I mean, she was in very. I looked at her military records, and she was in like she was in all the places that the United States government was in. Afghanistan. She was even in the Persian Gulf for a while. So she knew like the dangers of things, and she knew all of those things, and she like really believed that her like whatever in the ideology was so strong in her, right? The force was so strong in her that
Yeah.
she like took bullets for it. And I would say that like had she like being in the streets here during the uprising last summer and seeing the fascists, the people she was rolling with, actually shoot people to try to fucking kill them, I believe that she would have stood by them, because the same people who stood by the fascists who like shot my friend were the same kinds of people like Ashley Babbitt. And they actually like would post our home addresses, our pictures on the internet, and like call for our lynching and our hangings and like basically modern day scalp bounties. Like these people like are out for a murderous genocidal kind of like program. And I think it's one, and I saw a lot, and this gets into a whole nother thing, but like the element of fascism in this is like, yeah, it was like, and I agree, it was symbolic. There wasn't really anything like, what are they going to do? I mean, besides like smear their feces and urinate on the Senate floor, what are they actually going to do? Like, there wasn't really a plan, but nonetheless, it was like a huge victory for them. They like, there's relative impunity. I mean, yeah, they're gonna go after like they're gonna humiliate the people who died. Like, look at these these clowns that died for this cause. They're gonna probably arrest. They arrested Q Savage, but none of the people who orchestrated this, all the senators, the right wing senators, all the wealthy talk show right wing hosts, none of them are gonna go down for this. They're gonna get some low level guys, amp up some anti-terrorism laws that are eventually going to be used against the left, right? And that's what's really concerning for me, is that it's there is only a tangible gain for the right in this and they're already calling for a January 7th armed mobilization in Washington.
Well, I mean,
DC.
didn't that New York Times article come out? Was it yesterday that the RNC met on yesterday, and they all applauded Trump. Like, they were totally fine with what happened on Wednesday. And I think that people calling them like insurrectionists and extremists and like clowns, I mean, they are clowns. They literally look like clowns. Like the Trump outfit is a clown outfit, but that's not the extreme right of the Republican Party. This like is the Republican Party. And I would say that the Democrats today are probably like the Republicans of the 80s and the 90s. And so you have neoliberalism. So the two parties that have state power, right, are just standard neoliberals, right? Like Biden's just going to be like an austerity president, and like warmongers, like imperialists, and then like fascists. So these are the two things. These are the two things. They both have state power, right? They have the whole monopoly of violence and the mechanisms of the state behind them. So for me, it's like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about this situation, right? Because we don't have state power. We don't even have a movement right here on the left. But there's a couple of things I wanted to say and move back to. Sina, I appreciate your response to the deaths of these 5 people. Like, we're joking, but it's also like very tragic, I guess. And the reason why I'm saying this is I made this comment, and this is why I was targeted by fascists this summer in the media, why they tried to dox us. Well, they did dox us and tried to come to our house. It was because I was like, don't humanize fascism. Like, the ideology of victimhood, like the idea that these people are victims of Trump, is total bullshit, because fascism is an ideology of victimhood. These people already see themselves as victims of like George Soros, or victims of the racist conspiracy theories, right? Like the victimhood and like the idea that everyone is an enemy who is not a part of their like group, which is like usually like white petty bourgeois or bourgeois like people, right? These groups. And so this ideology of victimhood is already like ingrained in how they see themselves. And again, I'm going to use the word kinship, the way that they relate to each other. And so I don't think any of them have any problem becoming actual victims or like casualties of the cause, because the ideology, like fascism, yes, like they have state power. Nick reminded me of this in the United States. But fascists are literally like almost purely ideologically driven. It's an ideology. It's actually like neoliberal trauma politics, but the right wing version of it. The left wing has its own version of it, the healing stuff, but the right wing and the identity politics stuff. But the right wing has turned neoliberal trauma politics into this politics of injury that has now grown into, I think, a really vibrant fascist movement. And so for them, like they're a victim of settler colonialism, right? Because they don't actually belong here. This is why they have to claim indigeneity. That's why they have to remind us all the time that they're native to this place, because they're not. They don't fucking belong here. And the only way that they maintain control is through violence, like various types of violence. And so the toppling of statues, indigenous people coming out and supporting Black Lives Matter this summer, the taking down of Columbus statues, the retiring of racist holidays, like what Jen did a few years ago in Santa Fe, like they feel imperiled, right? This sense of entitlement they have to the land that is central to settler ontology. They feel victimized, right, by this turning tide of history. And this is partly why you see, I think, this expression. And then for Tatanka guy or Q Savage, right? Right. That's why he's the fucking icon of contemporary fascism, like settler fascism in the United States. It's literally like, you guys knocked down statues this summer. Like, you all came out through on Indigenous Peoples Day and you did all these things. Like, you've been trying to retire holidays. Well, guess fucking what? I stormed the Capitol dressed up as an Indian.
Yeah.
It was
got away with it.
And I fucking got away with it. Like, fuck you, Indians. Like, seriously, that's also what it represented to me.
One of the guys actually stole a riot shield, which Nick Tilson from Indian Collective is facing 17 years in prison for. And the guy who stole the riot shield was actually dressed like an Indian.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, like these people have. Don't get me wrong. I am not like sitting here like these people are redeemable. This stuff, like I am not that guy. I don't like actually.
Who cares if they were loved?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
no, I mean that's in terms of I was talking about like that specific
Jeez.
moment of this degenerate who's never loved anything in his life other than himself.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
Which is also fascism.
resorting to outright lying to people.
Sure.
Like
sure.
about his feelings for them, and everyone jumping on board to go and clap. Now, here's the difference. I think had Ashley Babbitt or any one of those chuds faced any kind of real resistance, they would have cowered 2 seconds, right? Like that would they would have run away in 2 seconds. Like those are not people who face down guns. Those are Gazans, right? Like a Gazan person stands up to a cowardly Israeli sniper to 300-400 meters away who deprives them of their legs or of their knees. Right?
Mm.
Like, and they go anyways, knowing that could be a reality. The fash correctly and justifiably presume that the cops are on their side, because guess what, the cops are on their side, right? So like this was a moment of contradiction. Yes, like that the Capitol scene was a contradiction among their own sort of settler elite, and the fact that they were let in to that place, that's the scandal. You know what I mean? That's the fact that they were allowed. I mean, the US is the world's most advanced police state. We all know this because we've experienced it. Our communities have experienced it directly, or we ourselves have experienced it directly.
I thought we were the beacon on the hill, Sina.
Oh, I mean, but that's the thing. Like that, you have to lie to yourself when you know what you are, right? Like you don't. Like Indigenous people don't have to make up shit about themselves and their horrible history. You know why? Because it's not true. It's true. Like it's all there for everybody to see, right? Like they don't have to fictionalize. Like, oh, our people came from this, that, or whatever. It's like, no, we're from here. This is where we're from. Like this is also something funny for me. Like I'm an Iranian. Like I don't belong in Canada, right? But like the vicissitudes of history brought me, right? Like it brought me to this point in history where I am a settler, where I am, sort of doing the work of settling this country, this ongoing project, right? But this thing, what I want to bring back here is that these people had nothing in their lives of value that spoke to them, right? Like this is alienation that then congeals into and grabs onto the first thing that they can find, a first kind of community they can find, which is white racism. And then from there, it's hopeless, right? You can't, I mean, whatever. There are these reform people, whatever, you can get them back, sure, whatever, fine. But like, you've gone down a fascist route and there's not much taking you, but like, I don't know. There's a weird thing here of agency, the individual subject, what kind of political class do we create? But like, the thing about social media is that everybody gets their say, right? Like everybody gets to dunk on the president. I get to re-quote tweet the president and call him, oh, Drumpf, ho, 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 right? Like this is like one of the sort of things that the US has, right? In terms of their freedom. Like you can tell George Bush, go fuck yourself, pedo, right? Like, and police don't storm down your door. Now, mind you, police do storm down your door for shit like that. It's just you don't hear about it, and like it's not that big of a deal. But like the fact that these people went out of their way to go to something as if it was like meaningful to them, like, and of course it was meaningful to them, but the meaning of that is just like it's like the pus that comes out of like a, like some, fucking like what's it called? Like when you have like a splinter in your finger, right? Like that's what that was. It was just like a reaction to a deeper problem, which is alienation, which is people feeling disconnected from any kind of community. And it's not, we're not going to get to the roots of all this. Like that's complicated. That's not anything. But like, this is a product of American politics and the lack thereof that people can grab onto. So instead it gets all translated into this, psychotic, absolutely devotion to this degenerate. I mean, I always joke this too, like you should just get real religion. Just get real religion. You don't need Trump. Get a real God. Like there are plenty of them to pick from. They got lots of history. You got all kinds of institutions. You can make any kinds of friends you want. Just pick one. Go be a Mormon. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
That's like what you can do. But like this guy was their God. Like
Mormonism isn't real. It's like a
that's a whole other podcast.
It's like a purely fabricated imaginary
community in and of itself, right? Like, I'm not here to defend Mormonism, but like, if you're going to call it if it behaves Sina, like a religion, call it religion. And
white settler Americans don't have a community by definition because they don't belong here.
Yes,
right. The only reason, and it can't ever. And this is like the existential crisis of like settler identity and settler ontology in America. And so I don't really know how this is why they form communities through like fucking QAnon and social media.
Exactly.
Like their alienation is like the defining feature of who they are on fucking stolen land.
Yes.
And like, this is what happens when you enslave people and build an entire society off of that. There ain't you can't go back from that shit. Like that was already done. That's like 80 gazillion layers deep.
You can't unbake that cake.
You can't unbake that fucking cake. And so for them to go to this like psychotic, deranged place, right, where they're in like this place of profound alienation. The fucking black people and indigenous people are rising up and like taking power and making demands. They're just like, oh my God, we don't belong here. And then like they storm the Capitol and they wear fucking Tatanka hats. And the thing is that they're all thinking this all the time anyway. Like their fucking holidays, Thanksgiving is completely formulated around, Thanksgiving is basically like a 1 day microcosm of what happened at the Capitol. I mean, that's really
actually true. That's a good point.
okay. And so what we saw was
so
like
4th of July.
It was just like so it's 4th of July. So I agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying this is like I don't even think this is psychotic. This is just like, this is so banal and logical. This is like settler logic, just like so laid bare. And the thing is like indigenous people, we see this shit all the time in border towns. These motherfuckers have been acting like this ever since the United States was founded. Like this behavior, it's like
the Tea Party. Like the Boston Tea Party was literally that.
It's like, welcome to the reservation, bitches.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's why there's like Israeli flags all over yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
This is the logic we have now. We have this global alliance of settler colonists who reverting to a kind of racialist ideology, which is flexible, right? Like
imperiled by the darker nations.
There's an American one. There's like a German
Falun
one.
Gong.
There's
South Vietnam.
There's
Hong Kong.
There's an Iranian one. Like
there's Iranian monarchist flag. It wasn't just an Iranian flag.
Like it's like these.
There was Gusanos from Cuba there. There were the golpistas from Venezuela there. It was like a convergence of like the reactionary right wing. Like
it was their Rainbow Coalition Million Man March.
It
really was. It
was
really
their fucking Rainbow Coalition.
And they had,
this is their coalition.
5,000 people there. Like it was nothing, right? Like it was nothing. It was just
it was bigger than that.
No, I mean, it was. I
would say it was like 20 or 30,000.
It was big. They were saying it was like
a
I think
million.
like. Yeah, they were saying like Alex Jones said it was a million. There's a million. Like a little frog that like learned how to talk. That's what he is.
No, God,
frog.
He's so painful to listen to.
Yeah, he always looks like a pimple that's about ready to just explode.
The pus coming out of the splinter.
But no, I think I think like everything that you all brought up is important, and I think it's worth going. And it's not to say that like everything like should be routed through the Q Savage guy.
Let's do it. Let's bring it home.
But like what Melanie was bringing up, the sense of victimhood, that's the definition of settlerism.
It really is.
It
justifies all manner of violence.
And it's not like a political ideology that's monopolized by the right. It's actually monopolized by liberals as well.
Hell yeah.
They have weaponized this. Okay, so first of all, there's two things. One is the idea of victimhood, and it goes back to this idea of primitivity and whatnot, and innocence and settler innocence.
Right, innocence and victimhood go hand in hand.
And Nazi Germany, one of the primary ideologies was like Lebensraum, that we had been confined as Germanic people to this area, like Indians of reservations, and we weren't allowed to be our authentic selves. And actually, Hitler was obsessed with indigenous people. Most Germans are, because of Karl May and that whole Western fantasy. But they believed themselves as aggrieved peoples of, not only Jewish people, but of communism, of, the idea of modernity. Like they were the victims of that, right? And so they had to commit genocide as an act of self-defense, right? And that's the exact logic,
yeah, for sure,
of the United States. It's literally written in the Declaration of Independence. To prevent quote unquote domestic rebellions, i.e. the revolts of African people who were enslaved by white colonists and the merciless Indian savages on our frontier whose only known rules of warfare is just like complete annihilation. So whether it's the right, like the right has very much capitalized on this, right? They've mobilized this, you had
they're better at violence. Like they're better at like overt violence.
And
that's why.
The march towards Thomas Jefferson's statue in is it Charlottesville? Charlottesville, the University of Virginia. They were chanting, "You will not replace us." And then of course it became Jews will not replace us. But that idea of replacement is like built into the idea of like settler
Fragility.
settler fragility. The idea that they are under constant threat, whether it's a demographic threat, they call that dog whistle stuff. It's not really dog whistle. Like as a native person, I'm like, yeah, they think that they're afraid of becoming a minority or even becoming equal. That's really what it is right now. They're afraid of equality. Equality to them is oppression. And so this idea of victimhood, we've I think Melanie and everyone else has like done a really good job of identifying it as a fascist element and the way it's mobilized, like with the MAGA and the QAnon people. But now that Biden is going to take power, it's going to be mobilized by the liberals, not just against the fringe, quote unquote, right, but also against the quote unquote fringe left as well. You have to remember it was Obama's FBI that infiltrated the Standing Rock camps and created, what amounted to a modern day COINTEL program of snitch jacketing, of informing on people, right? These politics are not just beholden to the right, but they're also beholden to the neoliberal kind of Democratic Party. And this is going to be, I don't like the anti-woke left very much, like the people who don't believe, like who like just dismiss, because they were never there talking about last summer when all the Black Lives Matter protesters were being arrested and just penalized for tearing down statues, for whatever it was. Like the 6 people who were arrested on felonies in Denver, all the people who were arrested in Portland, right? The J20 protests that happened, where in total like 200 people were arrested, facing like 200,000 years in prison or something like that. I can't remember. It was some ridiculous. It's maybe 2,000 years in prison, I think it was. Like that is real state repression, right? That is real state repression that now the liberal democratic establishment is going to be in charge of mobilizing. And Biden has hinted he's not going to forgive the overt repression of Black Lives Matter or any kind of left progressive movement that happened under Trump, right? Or even the ones that happened under Obama. There's still people sitting in prison for Standing Rock, right? There's still water protectors sitting in prison. For God's sake, Obama didn't even, release Leonard Peltier, from prison. Like these guys are like cops, and they have a cop ideology that is tied to this idea of victimhood.
Yeah.
And they're going to mobilize it. They're now claiming to be the victims. And I think, I agree with like, there should be like some kind of tactical or strategic advantage to like, crush the right in this moment, especially the fact that they pose this literal existential threat to a majority of the people in this country. But nonetheless, it's what we're going to get instead of like universal healthcare, what we're going to get instead of universal vaccination across the board, what we're going to get instead of like economic and racial justice and just decolonization in general, is we're going to get more cops, because this neoliberal state, the settler state, is a hammer and everything to it looks like a nail.
When you're a victim, everyone is an enemy or a potential enemy in waiting. It's like such an easy, it's liberalism. Fascism is actually an extension and an expression of liberalism, right? And so this idea of victimhood, like if you feel like a victim all the time, or if you don't trust anyone, or you're paranoid all the time, right? Then everyone is going to be a potential enemy, a particular potential insurgent. I mean, Native people in the U.S. imperial imaginary are the original terrorists and the original insurgents, right? And so it's easy to you can see how like the casting and the racialization of people, and then the way that the state continues to operate according to this logic of racial capitalism, that's what I just described, why it continues to reproduce itself over and over and over again. And then it justifies, again, I've said this already, all manner of violence, all manner of authoritarianism, right? It justifies all of that. And that's all we're going to get. We're going to get that from the Democrats and the Republicans, period. That's the state. That is the U.S. state manifest. And again, I think as Sina pointed out earlier, like, honestly, if you think structurally and historically, the root cause of all of this is liberalism. I mean, it's like, it's the total hegemonic authoritarian stranglehold that liberal democracy and the notion of the liberal nation state has on like the political imaginary across all the entire spectrum, left to right, probably with the exception of like some leftists who refuse liberalism, actually, because they understand, right, that liberalism is like also the root of racial capitalism, right? It's the root of, as you said earlier, Sina, that like some bodies matter more than others, right? Some people's lives matter more than others. And so liberalism cannot actually exist without this gross mass inequality. It cannot exist, right, without this immense amount of violence. It cannot exist without the genociding of people. And so fascism is both fascism and then just kind of like rote liberalism, which today is just neoliberalism, are really just like two sides of the same liberal coin. And so this is what we're confronting. This is what is on offer. And I was reading another foreign policy, or is it called foreign policy piece, where this guy, clearly like a white dude in the United States, was like, well, people throughout the world, the nations throughout the world, they want to have closer relations with the United States because they all believe in democracy and order. And of course, like China represents disorder and authoritarianism, right? And so there's still this like the idea of the beacon on the hill. Those people who stormed into the Capitol building on Wednesday, they want to recuperate America.
Yeah, they're invested in America.
They're invested in America. The fucking corporate Democrats are invested in America. All of these people, I don't give a fuck where they're at on the political spectrum. They are all invested in America, as is a lot of the world, especially like the empires, the empires and the previous empires throughout the world, the Europes and shit. And so what are we going to do about it? How are we going to combat liberalism? I feel like there's like a fundamental misunderstanding of liberalism that's often at work in the left. Personally, I don't think people understand how liberalism is operating in particular political moments or as like a structuring force. And then what makes liberalism tick, which is just like violence and racialization. Well, racialization is just violence. It's just like systemic inequality. But yeah, this is what we confront. And like the left, the Democratic Party under Biden, they're just going to keep doing the same neoliberal austerity stuff. They're going to try to, they don't want to be replaced.
Yeah.
They have the same mantra in their head, like, you will not replace us, as like the right does, for damn sure. Like, they want to keep this America intact. And they'll probably give just as many concessions, like, unfortunately, like appointing, co-deb to the Department of Interior, or kind of like the representational politics, these like gestures, right, to the demands of the left. And that's how they're going to incorporate those demands. But other than that, like, we just have liberalism. That's literally all that's on offer. And unfortunately, the liberals, not meaning people who are Democrats, but liberals, lowercase l, people who are invested in the project of liberalism, that is hands down the predominant ideology on offer. And the vast majority of people are invested in that ideology. And it's killing us. It will kill the planet.
Yeah. So I think this is a good place to wrap up. And this is actually like a very challenging first episode for the new year. I'll be honest.
Good times.
Yeah, good times. But I will say though that I'm optimistic. I think that Obama 2.0, i.e. Biden, Joe Biden. I just imagine the man
sure
eating.
He realizes this is the second time around. I'm just gonna make a kind of a senility joke, but that guy is not there. That guy is not there. He is not. There is nothing going on.
When he came out and spoke on 1/6 or January 6th during the Capitol thing, he's like, "Sorry for keeping you waiting."
No, I mean, Sina, you're totally right.
Like 4 years, he's going to sustain 4 years of this? I don't think so.
No, remember the one debate where he just like powered down in the middle of the debate?
He's like, I'm going to go drink a warm glass of milk and eat some cookies.
Yeah, it turns out like all those, like being a functionary for a violent settler colonial state ages you. Like it takes for some reason it sucks the life out of you.
I honestly think he just doesn't care. Like people are saying, like, I think somebody was calling me ableist, and I was like, no, actually, I think this guy is so narcissistic and bombastic that he's like, I don't have to. I don't have to, like, I don't even have to be enthused about this. He's like, I'm the fucking president. He's like worse than Trump, where Trump actually embraces that kind of like media profile, like Biden's just like, I don't care. Like,
He's like, I'm in the ruling class. I always
Yeah.
have been. I always will be.
I can literally like rule this country if I'm dead. That's
it's weekend
kind
at
of
Bernie's. Yeah.
the narcissism.
Yeah, he's like the pinnacle of the mediocrity of corporate Democrats.
Yeah, that's what's
he's like a mediocre white
that's
man
what makes him
manifest.
so offensive, you know. And the fact that he like gropes little children, that's like another thing.
Oh
But
God.
but
I mean, we're gonna see a lot of Kamala. We're gonna see
we
a lot
haven't.
of.
She's still vice president. I haven't seen her at all.
No. I mean, I can't imagine that they'll bring this guy out to a lot of events because the guy just does not have the battery power. I'm sorry. The Bluetooth like flicker logo is going. Something's flickering red. Yeah, like
it's like
that connection is not solid.
His Wi-Fi is equivalent to Albuquerque.
No, I don't.
He's
Like
got one bar.
I don't think it's. I really don't think it's
1G.
I really don't think it's a physical thing. I think he's just like he doesn't have to care.
Yeah,
he really doesn't. And
I mean,
that's
they're
what's
functionaries. They're functionaries of a state. This is what politicians are. They represent they represent like power, right? And like it's like the way that baseball, like they like the owners of baseball, and then there's this guy named a commissioner. You know who votes for the commissioner? The owners. Okay, he represents the owners. So it's like in wrestling when like the refs come out. It's like these guys all work for the same guy. Like it's all just a kind of big performance. So like I don't know, it's like a weird kayfabe around presidential politics because I mean even though Obama was the guy who really like put the steroids into executive power. I mean Bush was starting it, Clinton was starting it, sure, but really Obama like from his pen emanated a lot of power. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shifts into like caretaker mode or. I mean, the Democratic elite will rule this presidency, right? Like, this is going to be a kind of presidency by committee. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, when I think of Biden, I don't think of power.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
He's like the absence of power.
Low power.
Yeah, I mean, they don't need to. They just need to trot out a guy, and there's two parties. Who are you going to vote for, me or the fascists?
Right.
Like, that's the kind of weird hostage situation that like an American voter faces. Of like, whoa, like these are my options.
But this is the problem though, is that there's like I think the disgust is like, part of the response to like January 6th is that like Biden is supposed to be this kind of savior figure, and if not him, then his
Redeemer,
administration.
Not savior, redeemer.
Yeah, his redeemer. He's trying to heal and reconcile, and it's like, what are we trying to heal? Like we're like. His is like a very bad copy, and I can't remember exactly. It's like Build Back Better, which is like Make America Great Again. It's the same. It's just a cheap copy. It's like
America was already great. Hillary Clinton said that in 2016. Yeah. That was her response to him by
these
saying,
are all riffs on Reaganism, which is which is like really sad. But anyways,
I don't want to like open up another can of worms. But do you think for this reason it'll be easier to kind of like push on the Dems this year? Like, do you think because they're kind of getting attacked at all sides, like people are taking them less and less seriously? Because I mean, I think it's kind of apparent, like, what they actually function to do. Like, do you think it might be easier to win some gains, like just considering the state they're in?
I mean, Obama's excuse for most of his presidency was that he didn't have, both houses to do anything. But he did, for a short period of time, have both houses and didn't do anything.
Yep.
And I think, just from talking with people who were very politicized under the Obama administration or the tail ends of it, I think there's, and this is going to open another can of worms. I think the prevalent political ideology in this country is a non-ideological anarchism.
Yeah, I agree.
Something that is like anti-statist.
Libertarianism. Yeah, libertarian.
No, it's not. I wouldn't say it's libertarian. I would say that it's a distrust of the government because they understand that both the left and the right, we shouldn't use that term because they're not really left. The various iterations of the right, the Democrats or the Republicans,
right,
have failed to offer like a real viable alternative. And so what we get instead is like the buildup, in the absence of social wealth and power, we get the buildup of the the repressive state apparatuses.
but it's also organized social abandonment, right?
Yeah.
As Ruthie Gilmore, because of neoliberalism and how austerity works. And so people are like dying and suffering greatly, and they're rightly blaming the state.
It's an organic
so
response.
There's an organic anti-statism. We see this a lot in indigenous communities too, actually, because they understand that the US government is just like this fucking demonic evil force in their lives, right? That has done nothing but genocide our people. And so there's an organic anti-statism. I think that's pretty prevalent, right?
I don't agree with, I mean, I would say it's like a very incoherent ideology.
Yeah.
It's not like everyone's like, I think there's like anarcho-liberalism. There's people who are just like, for all intents and purposes, liberals, but have kind of adopted like a pseudo-anarchism against the state. But it's
Or
like,
even
it's,
like, oh, sorry, I was gonna say even like the anarcho-primitivism amongst indigenous people, like under the guise of it being like traditional.
yeah, there's those kinds of like tendencies. And I think it's like, it's an organic response because it's like, yeah, the state has done all these awful things. And it's like what Gramsci says, there's a common sense amongst a broad section, a very large section of the
just like
population.
poor and working class people, primarily people, well, not even just
they
people
don't
of
vote,
color.
first of all.
Right. They reject the
They're
state.
like, they're not engaged politically.
Right.
It's a common sense, it's like they have this, it's organic response. And the difference, though, and why I say non-ideological anarchism is you could actually turn that common sense into a good sense of like, well, actually, there's a kernel of truth in the way, your lived experiences, because the vast majority of people like feel the same way. They feel that alienation, they feel that disempowerment, and they feel that distrust of the government. It's like conspiracy theories, right? It's the common man's critical theory of the state, right? And it's turning that common sense into a good sense to say, well, actually, we need to build social power and we need organization and discipline.
We need to build the alternative to liberalism.
Right.
And I think I like the way that you said it earlier, Sina, that kind of like get up and go kind of aspect of American kind of political formations. I think that's attached strongly also to this non-ideological anarchism, like the kind we saw at Standing Rock, right? Where people are like, oh, the fucking state is coming in and trying to like go through this indigenous lands. We're going to fucking show up and throw down. And there's like actually a beautiful power and energy to it. Like the Red Nation does actually a lot of non-ideological anarchism, primarily because that's the primary way in which indigenous people have been engaged in resistance kind of in this more recent historical period. So we support that work 100%, but we are also committed, right, as Nick says, to turning that common sense into good sense, because we know, right, that if we have any hope of providing an alternative to liberalism, we actually have to build that alternative. And like just getting up and going to a place, that a struggle that will end at some point, it's just frankly, it's just not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just like staring down the barrel of like an epic fucking gun. Like we are in a major epical shift right now. And so like, what are we going to do to like be the bridge, right, to the alternative future? Because ain't nobody who has state power right now is the bridge to that future, or the people who support them. I mean, like, it's a small group of people right now who I think are really seeing the writing on the wall. We're not freaking out about what happened on Wednesday. We're just like preparing, right? We're ready to continue. We're ready to build. But there needs to be a shift in the left.
Yeah.
There really does.
Yeah.
People need to be more serious about this shit.
Yeah. And I think, I was talking to I was talking to an old Aimster, I should say, which is hopefully will be a podcast episode. And we were talking about, he was like, why AIM was successful is that it provided like the American Indian movement, for those of you that don't know. He was like, why it was so successful is that it provided the resources and organizing structure to like actually get things done and to show up and to like defend indigenous people and advance indigenous sovereignty. But it also allowed a space for what he called the lone warriors. And we have a lot of those in Indian country, the people who like are just grassroots people who they're organic intellectuals. They are the products of their situation. They're organically anti-imperialist. They're organically anti-colonial. But that doesn't make them leftists or like developed kind of like revolutionaries. And he's like, that was the beautiful thing about AIM, is that we had the capacity to build, these, what he called the lone warriors, and help them and support their work. And there was like mutual trust. And I think that's, something that we've been, that I don't have any definitive answers on that. And we're not trying to just like, reproduce things that happened in the past. But I think there needs to be a lot of humility practice on the left, and a lot of, slack given for people in this moment in time, because people fundamentally know that this shit is wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
Like many,
Like
many people.
I like the poll that came out by Illuminative. It was like 95% of indigenous people distrust the government, and I was like, it's only 95%.
and I think a lot of people are seeking that, you know, the plan. People want a plan. People want that kind of organization that will allow us to like continue moving forward, because, you know, say like after Standing Rock, for example, people were so demoralized, you know, when it ended, and they saw it as an end, which was really unfortunate. And I think like, you know, even if people are, you know, have these anarcho-liberal tendencies, I think, you know, when they're offered that alternative, when they're offered that plan and that way forward, like they're gonna be here for it. um yeah, it was just really heartbreaking to see how demoralized people got. And I just remember constantly telling people like there is a path forward, people are imagining it, and like this is something you can be a part of. And so, yeah, I would hate to see that kind of continued demoralization happen, which I think is, I also saw like after this past summer from some individuals. And it's like the, you know, getting in the streets is part of it, but it's not the end all be all. And when that energy like gets quelled, or, you know, when we experience defeats there, like it's not an end. So like I don't know, I think that people are ready, they're ready to engage in like a long-term struggle.
Yeah.
But we actually have to build like the infrastructure, right, around that struggle. Because all that's on offer right now for folks who are engaged in this like get up and go kind of radical organic politics is insurrection, which we also support deeply. Like we're always participating in these insurrectionary movements that happen, like whether it's the summer or Standing Rock. But then when the insurrection dies down, like all that's on offer are like nonprofits, electoral
Mhm.
politics, or just like individualism. So people
Yeah.
take to social media, they create like social media platforms, and then they're trying to participate in politics. And then I think people get deeply demoralized because they're profoundly alienated because there's no vehicle. There's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
vehicle for like organized large vehicle where they can see that all of this energy that they've put in to like insurrection or into resistance is actually amounting to something palpable, and like not just on an individual scale but on a fucking societal and structural level. Not just
Mhm.
getting like one native woman into Congress, but getting like land returned.
And then having white people tell us that she's the first Native woman in history to have real power.
Like
Yeah.
we don't want those fucking like what do they call that? We don't want those crumbs.
Yeah.
You know, people who engage in insurrection like from this non-ideological, this very organic like fuck the state, like we know what the history of the United States is really about. There's like a genuine heartfelt energy behind that. And then when they see that it only amounts to this shit, no wonder they're just like fuck this, man. Like I'm just going to stay on social media and I'm not going to participate because none of this actually changes anything. And us, those of us who are actually committed revolutionaries, we need to like stop bitching at each other on Twitter and pretending like we have better politics than each other. And we need to organize an actual alternative for people, working class and poor people who already know what's up, but they have absolutely no avenue to turn to. That's our fucking job. Sorry, I'm mad. I'm mad because the left does this all the time in the United States. There's such arrogance and conceit in the way that we engage in politics. Like total lack of vision.
Just the
Well,
part where we shamelessly self-promote the red deal.
yeah, and this is where we encourage people to join organizations
Yeah.
and to actually, like not make fun of, actual protest movements that are trying to like, let's say, like get Medicare for all.
Yeah.
Even though we may disagree on tactics and strategy, nonetheless, like there are things that we can win. There are campaigns that could be won. We're not just like demanding like people do impossible things or maximalist politics that only if these meet our XYZ standards of whatever. The fact of the matter is, like, if you're not struggling, you're not doing enough.
Mhm.
And
Straight
there are
up.
people that are struggling, and they're that are like trying to form real alternatives to this particular moment in time. And it begins by joining an organization. It begins by by practicing discipline and understanding that we are not where we should be. The right, if if January 6th is any indication, the right is far ahead of us.
Yeah.
They've outpaced us by decades. And part of it has to do with state repression. Like, there is that structural element.
Yeah, they have the monopoly of the state on their side.
But
like,
we have the choice and we have the agency as people on the left, as revolutionaries, to engage or not engage in the failed politics of the past. And I feel like there's this moment in time where people are just done with the kind of dogmatic, ideological kind of movements that have, or not really movements, but online culture that hasn't really amounted to much.
Nope.
And I love Twitter. I love the back and forth on it, but it's also, I don't live on Twitter. The only reason I've been more active on Twitter is because I'm stuck at home, which is sad. And my cat doesn't pay enough attention to me. So,
oh my God, that's all I hear every day.
I feel the same way.
Wilma's like, "Why are you here?" But
we do like deep political analysis, and then we talk about Wilma.
Yeah.
That's like literally our whole life.
Yeah. And so I think, but I think that's the point. Like, is that we're actually like coming out of this. There's an urgency among people that I find very hopeful, and
Absolutely.
we're seeing the people that that the electoral products that are a product. Electoral politics and electoral the elected officials who are a product of these movements operate in ways that are completely unaccountable to them, and that is going to fundamentally like blow up in people's faces and on like in 2021. It's going to be 2021 is going to be a very difficult year. But it's also going to be a very beautiful year, I think, if this stuff continues. And so I think that we are in a good position as long as we, I think I want to encourage other people to either join the Red Nation or join some kind of organization. Join the Red Nation if you're an Indigenous person really looking for an outlet and a way to organize. And I often don't pitch this very much, but we are hundreds, of people and of Indigenous people who are ready to fight and who are committed to actually changing this world and helping our relatives.
I wrote the conclusion to the Red Deal. It's coming out in April with Red
book.
Our first book with an imprint we started. We actually haven't talked about this much either. We'll roll all of this shit out as the spring continues. But like the last line of the book is, "We are waiting for you." Like, we're ready and we're waiting for you. And that's really the truth. That's not a condescending thing. We're really, the Red Nation is a group of Indigenous revolutionaries who really are ready to do what we need to do, right? To build that bridge to the future so our people can live a beautiful and abundant life. And we really are waiting for you to join us because, we need to grow the ranks of this movement that we're trying to build. And I would just really want to encourage people listening to let go of like these bad habits, these failed habits, of like radicals and of the left, and, our skepticism about what it means to organize, or our skepticism about socialism, even, just like really deep anti-communism that's built into the fabric of American identity that all of us participate in. It's very difficult to overcome because it's hegemonic, but we're not actually asking you to be a socialist. We're just asking you to believe in organized struggle and to believe in actual struggle, right? Not just discourse, but that you have to actually struggle with other people, really different people who are very different from you, actually. You have to struggle with them in order to make any kind of change, and definitely in order to make the kind of change that we desperately need if we're going to have a future as a species, let alone as like individuals or as nations or our families. So I encourage everyone to like take a leap of faith, to do like the kind of large scale political struggle that I'm almost 40, that I have never actually participated in my entire life. It's very daunting. It makes me kind of nervous, but nevertheless, I'm like 110% fucking ready to do it with thousands of other people.
Hell yeah. And like, not to get corn town with it, but I think something that
I just did. I already did.
Corn town.
Turkeys.
I mean, something that's really special and powerful about Red Nation is this very real sense of love that drives us, like love for our comrades and each other, and for, all the beings of the earth, like, love for our ancestors, love for the future, and just this sense of hope. And I feel like, outside of that, what's offered when people get demoralized is that turn inward to individualism. A lot of the self-care narratives where it's actually discouraging being in solidarity. It's discouraging joining an organization. It's like step back, self-care, and then also this denial to accurately read what's happening, right? Like if we acknowledge how powerful the right is right now, like that can only mean doom and gloom and disaster. And so it actually discourages having a correct analysis, and it discourages maintaining that revolutionary optimism, even in the face of the right gaining power as it is. And um, I just think there's a lot of power in knowing that you can attain that kind of love and comfort that, liberals and anarcho-liberals will put forth as, individualism being the path to. So, yeah, I'll say that.
And if you're like a lone warrior, like we got your fucking back. Daryl House, right? Who stood up against those cops at Petroglyph National Monument a couple of weeks ago. Like, we got your back. Like, just because we believe in organization and movements doesn't mean we would ever turn away from organic indigenous resistance. That's like the fucking fabric of who we are as the Red Nation and as indigenous people. So that's an important element and will always be an important element of the Red Nation. We just want it bigger because it has to be bigger.